Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and welcome to the Mobile Delivery Manager. In this week's training, I'm going to show you how to create this incredible mobile delivery managing application complete with dashboard, schedule, drivers, customers, and syncing to your mobile device, where you can automatically add in signatures, updates, delivery time, and have that sync back into Excel both ways. It's going to be an incredible training. I cannot wait. So let's get started. All right, thanks so much for joining me. I've got a really fantastic application today. Not only that, we're going to be creating our own mobile app. Not only that, but we're going to show you how to take Excel, sync it to the mobile app data, take anything entered into that brand new mobile app, and send it back to Excel. We're going to have seamless integration, seamless synchronization between both Excel and that. And of course, we're going to create this really cool application here, something we've done before, scheduling, drivers, customers, and something like that. So it's going to be a really fantastic training. I hope you'll stick with us through the entire training. So I'll try to not keep it too long, but I'm going to move slow on certain parts, especially things that I really want you to pay attention to. So it's going to be a fantastic training. If you do like these trainings, I just ask a few things, very simple things I know you can do. The first is smash that like button. That'll help others get to this and find out how they can learn how to build applications through Excel. That's what I'm all about. If you also, I would appreciate if you could subscribe. Just go ahead and click that subscription icon below. And of course, that notification icon bell. That's going to ensure that you get these trainings each and every week. This application is absolutely free. It's actually a template for you. All you need to do is click the links down below, either with your email or your Facebook Messenger. We're going to go ahead and get that sent over to you right away. My goal is to not only just teach you Excel, but to make you successful with Excel. And I've got a few courses that can help you do just that. If you want to take your passion for Excel or your inspiration and you want to create applications on your own for passive income, I've got an incredible course that's going to help you do just that. And that's called the Mentorship Program. In that course, I teach you every step of the way through a 12-phase program exactly how to define, design, develop, and deploy your own Excel applications for passive income that you can count on each and every month, right? It's not just good enough to know Excel, but how can you make money with Excel? This course focuses exactly on that. You can get to that through myexcelmentor.com, myexcelmentor.com. I hope you'll join up. It's an incredible course. Tons of students are graduating and very successful from it. All right, let's get started on this course because I've got so much to show you. This is actually a mini course in itself, right? Because we've got an application to develop. We have to show you the mobile integration. Now, for those of you that have been with me a while, this format looks familiar, right? As far as developing the application, it is something very, very similar. If you want to know what it looks like from the original training, go ahead, go to the Maintenance Manager. The Maintenance Manager, that is an application we created last month, and we went over a dashboard just like this. We went over this menu like this and a scheduling very similar, drivers. So it was a very, very similar. And so what I don't want to do is spend a whole lot of time on the UI on this Excel, but what I really want to do is focus on the application development and creating an application that syncs with Excel. Of course, where there's differences and where there's important parts, I'm going to go over every point, but really, how do we get this data into a mobile Excel, and how do we get the data from the mobile application into Excel? So I'm going to show you, we're going to pay close attention on that so that you can create not only your own Excel applications, but app development as well, so that the two of them sync. As we all know, Excel with macros does not work on tablets or does not work on mobile phones, at least tablets that don't run the full version of Office. So what we need to do is we need to bridge that gap. Everybody wants to use at least these applications on their mobile. So my job is to teach you how to bridge that gap and have seamless integration between apps and Excel. And it's all doable. We've got some really great apps, so I'm going to show you every step. Let's go ahead and overview on this. We've got a dashboard. It's kind of a simple dashboard, but basically we want to know total jobs by status, completed and closed jobs, and total deliveries. Very, very basic on that. We've got a few timelines here, nothing a whole lot. Now we've got jobs. We've got a list of customers that we're going to be able to do. And we can include delivered if we want to, just by selecting. It's going to load all the delivered jobs or just those. So it's going to be a quick filter. We'll be able to filter by delivery address, job ID, customers, pickup address, and a whole lot. So there's some really cool features here, we'll be able to, of course, save the job. That's going to automatically update the mobile data. So if you've got 10 different or 20 different drivers, each one of their phones is going to automatically update with any new jobs or updated jobs. We can create a new job, we can print the job, we can delete a job, and of course we can sync the mobile data if there's any data. So we're going to go into all of that. I've got a really cool schedule. We'll be able to go to a schedule. I only have pretty much 1 month for the most part jobs, but it's really, really cool. And of course, we'll be able to select on any job. It's going to go directly to that job. So a very cool schedule. We've got a list of drivers. This is kind of just some basic information for drivers, basic information for customers, and an admin screen. We'll be able to have, we need to know our application folders. We'll be able to customizable job statuses. Notice these colors. We'll have a color palette. So we can change the colors. Now this is indicative of the schedule, right? So those colors are basically colors based on the schedule. We've also got custom icons, right? So based on the job status. So notice this Mary Badger, notice that little truck. If we click on that, we see that that has been picked up. So that's the icon that we're going to use for the picked up. So when we go into the admin, let's scroll down here, we see the admin here, and we see that the picked up is going to have this picked up icon. So I've got a list of icons and colors that are going to help us for the schedule. And then we've got a list of times and a few other things. Okay, so let's get into it. So that's our admin. We've got our dashboard. We have our jobs here. We'll be able to add new jobs. We'll be able to show a signature if a job has been delivered. Let's see if we can find one with a signature. I believe this one's got one here, a 42. We just did that as a sample. That one's got a signature. So we'll be able to display a signature as a picture. That's going to come from a signature on the mobile device. Okay. And then the rest of the job information. So we've got pickup address, pickup time, pickup date, right? And delivery date and delivery time. Everything else is kind of standard with this. And then that's pretty much it as far as an overview. It's a relatively simple overview, but we'll go over this in a little bit of detail, and then we're going to really focus on that. So let's go over quickly exactly how we created this. Then I'm just going to go over briefly an overview. Then we're going to get right into the app development because that's super cool. Okay, so we've got a dashboard here, right? And we've got different sheets. So let's go into the VBA and see how we do that. So we've got a macro that's going to run this. It's basically going to allow us to control different sheets. Now this is a single macro, okay? So each one of our sheet names are very specific, right? So that I can use a single macro. So if we take a look in this, we see this is the name of that shape is called dashboard. And of course, the name of this shape is also called dashboard. So regardless of whether the user clicks here or here, they're going to get the same, right? Same thing here. This is called here. If I select on this, it's called jobs, right? So each one of these shapes, these are all just basically shapes, they're the same name as the sheet, right? So when we go ahead and go into the developer, we're going to see that we can quickly move to another sheet with a single macro. And what is that macro? Well, we can go into Alt F11 to get you into the VBA. Of course, we can assign the macro. When we assign that, we see that we've got the edit. And that's going to take us directly into the VBA editor here. So inside our VBA editor, Alt F11 is a shortcut. We've got 4 different modules. We have application macros. We have job macros. We've got a pop-up calendar, which we're not going to use much. That's just for the pop-up. And then we've got the scheduling macro. So that's pretty much it. 4 modules. Now the application macro, we have very, very simple macro here. This is called menu select. This is the macro that's been assigned to each one. It is the same macro. So when I right click, this is an entire group, all the shapes in the group. If I want to assign the same macro to all the shapes in the group, all I need to do is just click on here and then just click find the macro here, which is called menu select here, and just assign it. This will assign that macro to every single shape inside that group automatically. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we create a single macro? So remember, the shape names are critical. Remember, the shape name is called dashboard, right? If I know the shape names are critical, and look, if we take a look inside our dashboard, we see that this has a very specific code name called dashboard. It is the same name here, this code name, drivers, jobs, very specific. So we've got both the code name on the left and the sheet name on the right inside the parentheses, okay? So that is how, so all we need to do is focus on the name of the sheet. So if I want to call that shape and I want to activate that particular sheet, All I need to do is use the shape name because they're exactly the same. To get that shape name of whatever we clicked, we're going to call application caller. That gets us the shape name. So when we turn off screen updating and turn it back on, it helps from flashing. So that's all we have to do. Now keep in mind, if you try to run this macro from here, there's no shape name that selected it. It's going to create a bug, which is fine because there's no shape name. But if you run the same macro, right, you're going to see its application caller. Why is that? Because no shape called it, right? We clicked here, no shape. But when, of course, we run the same macro and we click on here, it's going to work just fine. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, we've got a few other inside this module, a few other macros. We can set a booking color. This is relatively simple. We're going to be moving a little bit quick because I want to focus our attention on this. Admins, right? We're going to make a selection change. That selection change is going to display this color palette. It's called color palette, right? When I make a selection of a color, that's going to automatically change the color in here. So it is that single macro that's been assigned to every single shape, right? If we take a look here, we drill down into an individual shape. We right click, sorry, it's off the screen. Let me bring that up a little bit here. Okay, so when we right click here and we click assign macro, we see that it is called the set booking. Okay, that's the macro that we're focused on here. All we need to do is take whatever the color of the shape that we clicked and take that color and put it inside the background of a cell. So our active cell interior color, that's the one that's going to be changing, and it's going to come directly from the shape that we clicked and whatever the fill, the fore color, the RGB of that shape is. That's all we're doing, and then we're just going to hide that shape. So that's it. We've got a few browse. I need to browse for some application folders, so we're moving a little bit quickly because it's kind of basic. All I want to do is I want to get a few information. I want to know where we have a central folder where all of that data is going to take place. And so that means when I make changes or when the drivers make changes on the road, that has to come to a central folder. We need to map that central folder. So I've done it right here. We're going to call it inside. It's got to be inside a Dropbox. We're going to be using Dropbox for this. App sheet, where we're going to be using that data, and this is our folder. So this is all the data. We have the application data that's going to come in. We have driver images. We have job images. Job images would, of course, be the signature. So if we take a look inside the view properties, we see that the signatures are going to be stored inside here. And we also have data. The data is going to be the data that comes in. So if we have signature data or a change, so that's going to come in. So we have a lot of information that's going to come in. And of course, we have the driver pictures here. So so we need to map this folder. I need to know what folder this is. So all we need to do is browse for this folder. This is the folder I want. That's where our data is going to come in. And that'll come into play a little bit later on. So what I need to do is I need to know what folder. So when I browse for this icon, of course, we need to find that automatically. And so we have the mobile data file, right? This is the file, right? We need to know what file. This I'll go over into. This is a specific Excel file where our mobile data is located, separate from this file. Inside that, basically what we're going to, I'll go over that in just a moment. We have two tables, one for driver and one for jobs. Okay, and I'll go over that. And of course, we need that folder where our applications or icons are called, right? We need those icons. Those icons are going to be inside our admin right here. These are the names of the icons. And I need to know what folder they're located in because when I browse the schedule, I need to create those icons and put them directly in the schedule. We have several icons, scheduled, pending, and so on and so forth, right? So we need that. So we're just going to browse. So I just need a few macros that are going to do that. So browse for the data folders here, data file is here, and data folder is here. So those are just macros to browse for files and folders. Keep in mind that a file, we're going to only look for XLS. I only want XLSX or XLS, right? We're not looking for a macro. This is simply a data file, an Excel data file. So that's all we're browsing for. And then, of course, the data folders, any folder for the mobile data folder, and for the icons, any folder. That's pretty much it. This is the app update from application. We'll be going over this a little bit later. So that's for the application. Jobs is going to be very, very simple. I'm going to go over that very, very briefly. We have one macro that's going to load the list. And all we're doing in this macro here is we've got a database of jobs. Okay, so what I've got here is all of our jobs here, customer information. This is all the information is we have a picture name of that signature in a folder here. Okay, all I'm going to be doing is setting some criteria based on the status and in this case the delivery address. So this is going to be based on F4. So that means if I change this criteria inside here, right, if I change it to, let's say, job ID, and I want to search for a specific job ID, I can do that right here. So easily just search for that. So what we need to do when we search for that is we need that criteria. And then we also need to know if we're including the delivered or not, right? If we're excluding delivered, since this one's already been delivered, we're not going to include it, but in this case we are. So how do we know that? Well, of course, that's based on criteria inside our jobs database. So let's take a look at this dynamic criteria. Job ID is 3. Notice this is linked to jobs F4. This is linked to jobs F5 if it's not enter search, right? If the words are not enter search, jobs F5. Also keep in mind the status. The status is either going to be, if jobs, it's either going to be does not equal or does not equal. So let's take a quick look inside that. When I change this to include delivered, so we're not including delivered now. Let's take a look back here. Now it says does not equal closed, right? I want to know does not equal closed or delivered. Probably should say, let's just change that to does not equal. On the description, I really want closed. So let's take it like include closed. Okay, I'm going to put closed. I think I updated the name here. So what I want to do is should be closed, because when you close out, you may not want to do include closed. That's what I'd really like. Okay, so we're going to include or exclude closed. Delivered, right? We have got a few different ones. So I've got delivered and I've got closed as status. So I'm going to just exclude closed. Delivered's okay, but closed I don't want to. So that's a good way. So now what we're doing is we're excluding anything that's closed. So inside that, now we see we're excluding does not equal closed. So we're looking for job number 3 if it does. If nothing, of course, nothing's appeared there because job 3 is closed. So if I take a look inside that and I take a look at job 3, we see that the status has been closed. That's why it doesn't appear. When I clear the search, it's going to go back. Okay, so the macro to do that is very simple. The first thing we're going to do on the job sheet is clear our results. Then we're going to focus on the jobs database. I'm going to move a little quicker here, getting the last row, making sure we have last row, running an advanced filter with our criteria that I just went over, having those results, and then checking to make sure that we have a last row, and then bringing those results into that. Okay, that's very, very simple. A clearing filter, all I need to do is simply change this to enter search. We have a change event. As soon as there's a change to F5, it's any change at all, it's going to load this macro. Enter search is going to do that. Okay, so that's all we have to do. Clearing that search is simply going to clear it. Okay, that's it. It's going to put enter search here, and then it's going to clear the list very easily. Okay, moving on, saving and updating. This is very, very basic, except where the point is we're getting the mobile details. Okay, I'm going to go over this macro because there's some updates in a moment right after we create our mobile app. Saved message is just a fade out message, right? As soon as I save that job, we have a little fade out message that's going to appear here in the upper right. That's relatively simple, and it's just going to fade out of shape until it's completely gone, right? So it's going to, you can speed it up or slow it down as if you change this and this, it's going to do that. Showing the signature pick, this simply shows a signature pick, right? If I've got a signature in a folder here, including our, let's say our job images here, I need to map that, right? I need to know where these signatures are and I need to put it. So I've got it, each one has a signature name. And so what I need to do, of course, I need to map that so that I can get the full file path. If I know, so what we're going to do is we're going to save that name, and we're going to also save the folder as well in that, because here's what we've done. We've mapped it all the way up to this folder. This is our main folder, all the way to this. The rest of it is going to have to be saved. Job images along with the name. So it is that name that we're saving inside the database. So for inside our jobs database, we're going to save the folder that it's in, and we're going to save the signature. So we're saving the folder that it's in, job images, and we're saving the name of that. So when we combine this folder, this name, and we combine this path right here, so we can combine all that, we get the full file path. When we get the full file path, we can then actually notice this is called mobile data folder for a named range. Okay, so that's the one we're calling it. And so when we combine that, we combine it with this path here, we get the full picture. When I have that full file path and it is accurate, I can then display that picture in any particular. So let's go ahead and pull up a job with a picture here. Job number 3 has it. So we'll go back into the dashboard here. Jobs actually. Job number 3 here. All right, reset that. And now we can see the picture is going to show up. Okay, so we've got a picture there, and that's automatically just updated the database on that. So we can show a picture in there. So what I want to do is I want to get this picture centered perfectly in column M and perfectly centered vertically between rows 11 and 14. So that's what we're going to do here. So for showing the picture, right? First of all, I need to make sure that we have the correct mobile data equipment folder, mobile data folder, right? I want to make sure we've got the correct one. So we're going to check, is it empty? Then please let, you can see I program these fast, and then I just copy and paste. It's quick. Mobile data pictures. Okay, so we need to actually please set a folder for mobile data. I guess it's just mobile data. And so that's all we need to do. So we're going to browse for the data folder, let the user know that we're browsing. Okay, if it is still empty, we're going to run another check. If it's still empty, we're exiting the sub after we run this macro. So we've got this signature folder here. It's located in the mobile data folder. We've got the full file path. All we're going to do is we're going to put it. Now, this particular file name is actually saved right here in B12. So when I load that data, notice that this one doesn't have it, but this one does. So when I load that job in, this is the name. Keep in mind that we have the images folder and the name combined. So when we combine those two, we get a full file path, what's located in B12. Once I have that inside B12, now I've got a full file path because I've combined both of them to do that. So we've got that. We're going to check to make sure it's an accurate. If it does not equal empty, we want to check for an accurate path. Then all we need to do is insert that picture. We have a correct path. We're going to insert that picture. We're going to lock the aspect ratio to make sure it doesn't get contorted. We're going to set a maximum width of 115. We're going to set a maximum height of 80. Then all I'm going to do is center that. Center it inside column M, taking the width of column M, subtracting the width of the picture and dividing that by 2. That's going to center it horizontally. Then I want to center it vertically. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm getting the height of rows 11 through 14, and I'm going to divide that by 2. That's going to center it vertically. That's it. New, right? All we're going to do is clear out a bunch of cells, making sure that the signature pick, that in case there's any, we're going to delete that. If there's not any, it could create an error. So we're going to wrap that in on air, resume next, and go to 0. Okay, loading it. All we're going to be doing is just clearing all the contents out, deleting any signature that might be there, making sure that B4 is empty. B4 is going to contain our row. If you know, so I've got a job ID here. I've got a job row here. Okay, so I need to know, make sure that job row, right? And when I click new job, you see there's no job row, right? There's no job ID. So we need to make sure that if we're going to load it from this row here inside the jobs database, we need that. We're going to use data mapping. We've been over that 100 times if you've seen my videos. So there are videos that are dedicated to this. So basically, we're just going to take the information and bring it directly inside here. We're going to turn off application screen updating. We're going to load all of that data from the database into the fields. And then what we're going to be doing is I want to extract, here's something kind of new, and I want to show you this one. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this because this is brand new. So here's the difference. This is kind of tricky, but I really like the idea of it. So I want to share it with you, what I've done today. Okay, so if we take a look inside our database, we have a pickup date and time, and we have a delivery date and time. They're combined, right? And I like to have them combined inside the database, right? They're much easier for scheduling and sorting and things like that. However, when it comes to user entry, I really like to have them separated. In other words, I'd like the user to set a date and set a time. And so I like that ability because they have drop-down lists. But what I want to do is I want to combine them. So when I'm saving them into the database, I want to combine both the date and the time, and I want to have it a single column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an additional field, additional cell here that combines them. And that's what we're going to do inside B10. So B10, all we need to do when we create a date and time, all we need to do is simply, mathematically, add the date and the time together. And that's going to be in B10. So whatever is located in I11 and K11, we're simply combining them. And that's going to create us both the date and the time. Same thing with the delivery. All we're going to be doing is combining them. We're going to take in the delivery date and the delivery time, and we're combining them. So when I change this to 7:30 a.m., you see it automatically changes here to 7:30. So they're just linked. So it is this information that's going to go directly inside the database. And that's great. So when I'm saving it, all I need to do is map. Instead of mapping these two fields, I'm going to map B10 and B11. Now that's really good. So that means all I need to do is bring this value into our jobs database right here into column M. Notice it says B10 up there, so I can bring that. And notice this says B11 up here, so I'm bringing that in. That's fine. However, when we load this data in, when I bring this information, I want to bring it back into the jobs, right? I need to separate it. I need the date and the time separate when I'm loading it in here. What I do, I can't bring it back into B10 because B10 is a formula. I cannot do that, right? I need to keep B10 as a formula. So what we want to do is we want to take the value, we want to separate it using VBA, put the date here and put the time here, but not loading it into B10. And so that's a difference. So what I'm going to do is I want to check. I want to make sure it's not empty. We're looking for a pickup time, right? And a pickup time is located inside column F. So I want to make sure it's not empty. If it's not empty, what I'm going to be doing then is I'm going to be separating it. So first we're going to check in VBA, make sure the pickup time and date, or this is really a pickup date, right? Pickup time and date is not empty. First we're going to check on that. And so once we know it does, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it, right? So to get in I11, which is the date, that's where I want it to go, I only want the whole number, right? Remember, in a date, when you have a date and time, it's mixed, right? If we go into general, let's take a look inside this one here, and we go to general, change the format, we see that it's both the date, which is 44650, that's the date, the time dot 30208, that's the time, right? So what I want to do is I want to separate, to get the 44650, all you need to do is use the integer command, int, and that's going to separate that. And then the next thing in the next line of code, I want to get only the decimal, and that's going to be the time, right? So when we format that as general, we see this separation there, okay? So it's very, very simple. So let's take a look how we do that. So to get inside for just the date, all I want to use is the integer command of whatever's in F. That's going to get us the pickup date, which is the whole number. What about the time? Well, in the time, all I need to do then, once I know the value of it, all I need to do is subtract out. I know that all. So I'm going to take that entire date and the time together, and I'm going to subtract out the date. When I subtract out the date, it's going to leave us with the decimal. That decimal time is going to go into K11. So that is all we need to do to separate it. Okay, so keep in mind also when we load it, we don't want to load in column 6 and 8. 6 and 8. Column 6 is the pickup date. Column 8 is the delivery date and time. So we don't want to load those in, right? We want to load all the other columns, but not these two columns. These two columns are taken care of here and here, okay? Column F and column H. So that the delivery time, again, all we need to do is just to take that whole number, the delivery date, that's going to give us that whole number using int, and then take out that, subtract from that main date and time, just that specific delivery time. Once we have that, we extract it out, it'll extract that delivery time and it'll put it directly inside K14. That's all we have to do. Great, this is for the customer. That's going to load the customer. And then B12, we're going to show the signature as long as we actually have a signature, right? The last thing is, as long as B12 is not empty, we're going to show that signature. So as soon as B12, we want to display that signature, it's going to run the macro. Okay, very good. And then deleting it, all we need to do, relatively simple, extract the row, the database row from B4, and just run the delete. Printing it out, we're just going to print it out based on the set. Very easy macro. Customer, save and update. We're going to save it, right? So if I want to just save or update the customer, it's going to save any changes we made. It's going to save that directly inside the customer database. And that's going to be based on the row, the customer row. We've got that customer row right here located in B10. Very good. Relatively simple. So that's it for the jobs. It's customer save message, the fade out message. That's it for the jobs. Let's get into the cool part of developing our own app. And now how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use a really cool feature we've done before called App Sheet, right? It's called App Sheet. This is a really, really cool. App Sheet is an amazing application where we can create our own app sheet. So if I want to create a brand new app, first of all, you sign up. It's free, at least for this portion of it, the portion that we're going to be doing. Of course, you can get in deploying it. When you want to deploy it to many people, you'll pay, there's a pricing and things like that. But for our purposes, everything we're going to do is free. Okay, so what I want to do once you get signed up, all right, I'm going to click Make a New App. So we're going to click Make a New App. And it's going to be easier to start with the template. So we're going to do that. Start with the template. Of course, you can have an own idea. So we'll click Start with a template. And we'll call this Test App. Here is fine. And we don't need a category because the one we want to use start is right here under Field Delivery. And I also want to set our app to Dropbox, right? I'm going to use Dropbox, right? So you can also connect your Dropbox, right? That's what I want to do. Once you connect your Dropbox into My Apps, you can do that and templates. Okay, so we're going to set it to Dropbox because that's what I want to link to. And I'm going to click Free Delivery. So that's the one I want to do. Now it's going to simply set up our app. That's all we have to do to set up our first test app. Once it's set up, you'll have this. We'll have a little app here. We've got it already, so we can click Customize Our App. And now we're here. We've got a list of drivers here. We've got active jobs here. So we can show all of our active jobs. It already comes with sample data. If we take a look inside our active job, we can click here. And we see that we've got job number 38 here. We can edit this job, right? We can delete the job here. So we're going to edit it. We've got a driver. We can select from different drivers here if we want. We got a job name. We can click notes. We've got a pickup, delivery, pickup date and time. Now notice it says pickup date and time, but it didn't show that. So we're going to need to customize that. It should have, right? It should have showed a time, but I'm going to show you how to mess it up. Drop off. We'll be able to unclick this, add a signature here, and then also we can set the status. Now I kind of updated this on my app, but I'm going to show you how to do that. So the status is here, and then we're going to click save, right? And all that's going to do is just save it. Then we click up here and it's automatically synced and linked. Okay, so that's basically the time. So let's go ahead and go into this and take a look at that. Now, this particular app comes with two basic databases. We have drivers and we have jobs. So the drivers, if we click on here, right, we see that we're allowed to add updates, storage. And what we want to do is we want to look, where is this located, right? If we click on storage, we see that now we've already connected our Dropbox. And I believe inside my account here, I think it's going to show our integrations, right? So what you want to do is you want to make sure you add in your integrations here. So channels out, inside sources here, sources, we see that we've got Dropbox. So we want to add that before, if it doesn't show Dropbox, when you create your account, when you first create your account, add Dropbox so when you click new data source, you get a lot of options, right? You want to add Dropbox there and it'll connect to your site automatically. Connect to your Dropbox. You want to make sure you have a Dropbox account. You can use Google Drive. So there's a lot. If you want to try another one, go for it. For our purposes today, we're going to use Dropbox because it's one of my favorites, easiest to work with. So that's inside your account, right? Go into your account here, information here. Right here, my account, and then just go into, again, sources, and that's where it's going to be. So connect your Dropbox account. That's the first thing you want to do. So once it's connected, what it's going to do when you use that Dropbox as a database, as we did when we first set up the account, it's going to create a folder automatically inside called App Sheet if you don't have one yet. Then it's going to create another folder called Data, and then it's going to have your app name. And then what it's going to do is going to create an Excel file, Now this Excel file is not just drivers, it's both jobs and drivers. So let's take a look at that inside our Dropbox. So I'm going to go back into my Dropbox. You see here, I'm going to go back up. Now inside this particular, now notice we have test app. This is the app that we just created just now. So I'm going to double click that. This is the folder that AppSheet created for us inside my Dropbox. We have driver images, we have job images, and we have drivers. This is the one I wanted to show you. So when I click on here, we see that we have now the database of key, driver, name, notes. That's on one sheet, pickup. So we have all of our job information here. And we also have, here's the driver. So it's a second sheet. So we have two sheets. One is jobs and one is drivers. And we have a list of drivers. We have driver names. We have driver images, right? Notice that there's a folder path. This driver images is the folder driver images plus the name, an email, and a phone number. Okay, so we see that we've got two databases. And now if we make a change in here, it's automatically going to make a change inside our, So if I change this, right, for notes on job number one, it's automatically going to change inside our app because it's synced together very, very easily. Right, so let's take a look at that. Let's go ahead and open up our app and see how it is. Okay, so here's job number 38 that we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our database to demonstrate how they're connected, and we're going to go into job number 38 here. Okay, so here's our notes. So this is our notes column. Column D is our notes. So if I change this is a note change. And I save that, right? If I save it here, because Dropbox is connected to the internet, because it's automatically saved. So notice we've got job number 38's changed. Okay, so now I'm going to close this out, making sure that our Excel is both saved and closed on that. And now what we're going to do is go back into our test. Okay, so now it's had a chance to update. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sync this actually. First of all, I want to make sure to sync. Then I'm going to go into edit it. And now it says this is a note change. So you see how our change in Excel on our desktop actually made this change. I'm going to do that one more time. I want to make sure that you get that because it's very, very important. Okay, so I'm going to go into the drivers here. We're going to take a look. We just made this change. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to change this date to, let's say, 11/20. Let's put it on a current year, 2022. Okay, so now our pickup date is on 2020 pickup date and time. So I'm going to save that here, close that out, go back into our app sheet here. Right, so now so all we need to do is go back, right? I want to refresh, that refresh is key. Remember, we changed the year on this. I'm going to edit this particular job here, and we're going to go look down here. We now see the pickup is now in 2022. Okay, so we understand that any change in that main database is also going to change, and that's very important. So that means that when we create our application, if I make an update to this and I also update that main database file, we know it's going to update there. Right? So we've done just that. So we understand that changes to that file in Dropbox will change our app. So that's the important distinction here. Okay, great. So we have this information. Okay, so let's take a look a little bit how we can customize it, because it's such a really cool app. So we've got, here's our source data, our worksheet. This is the name, right? So this is, we're focused on our drivers, right? So if it's our jobs, right? Our jobs is going to be located, our database here is going to be our storage for our jobs. It's going to be in the same worksheet. It's looking for the same worksheet. However, we have two different sheets on that, and that's going to be jobs, or job sheets. Okay, our data source is basically here. We can copy to no location. We have a very source ID, and we have default. So that's, if we want to look in and see the columns, just like Excel, we can click on columns, right? So this is going to see we got columns, and we want to know the columns for, let's say, the driver. So it's going to give information about each column. We have the key, we have the driver name, a photo, which is an image type. We have email, phone number, and then jobs list. Okay, so that's a list of jobs, right? So it's just the information. Okay, so that is basically it for the drivers. For our jobs, we want to look at the columns, right? So we've got a little bit more here. We can see the driver. This is a reference, and what that means is we're referring to another table, right? If we take a look inside, we want to edit that. We see that it's getting column names driver. It's referring to another column, and our source table's on driver, right? That's our source table. So it's going to look for driver from our source table, and it's going to match them automatically. So that way, right, when we close this out, and that way when I'm on an active job here and I'm looking in the driver, let's take a look inside a specific job here. Let's take a look at this one here, and we edit that, right? We want them linked, so that way it's linked automatically to our drivers. So you see how that is? So because it's linked, just like in Excel when we link it. So we have that going on. Cool. So we understand the data, right? And we can basically change it. We see that this is a signature type of signature. So with notes, it's very, very smart, right? So we can create a signature on that. So super cool. So we can create we can add additional, add virtual columns if we want. We can view the table. If we want to click view the table, it's going to view the entire view columns or view the table. So we've got a lot of different options here. Okay, cool. We've even got little slicers, so we can add that in. So finished jobs. So that's going to help us. Pending started jobs. It's going to give us some rules, right? If we want to create some rules, we can do that. And we also have some user settings. If you want to lock out certain users or keep in certain users, we've got user settings or options that each user can set to control the behavior on the app. Lots of different options as far as the data is concerned. We can add new tables if we want. Maybe we want to add delivery addresses, or maybe you want to add a list of customers. That would certainly be an option. You can do that right here since we have customers inside our Excel. So that would be a great way. So that's basically how our data is located. But how do we change the look and feel? Well, that's into the UX, okay? UX is going to contain, so here's all of our information. So we have some primary views. If we look here, we see we've got finished jobs here, which is a calendar. We've got active jobs here, and we've got drivers here. So that's basically our three primary views. And we can customize that. So we active views, right? So we notice that active views is a map, right? If we click on here, so this is, we only want to know finished jobs. So active jobs here is a map, right? So we can change the map style. Of course, we want to change it. We can change it to a different style. Look, it's pretty cool. Lots of different ways to change that style if we want to look at that. And so we can update that also. So that's active jobs. So now what we want to do, we can also change it to a calendar, a deck, a map, a chart if we want. I don't know where we want that. And so lots of different ways that we can customize this. We can have viewing options, right? We want to view only the pickup or only the destination, right? So if I want to know the maps based on the drop-off, only the drop-off locations are here. Or maybe I want to know the pickup locations, right? As long as they're correct addresses, we can show either one on our satellite. So it's very cool. We have a secondary data table if we want, right? Secondary table. We can do the map type, automatic. We can do road maps, or we can do aerial maps, right? So very cool road maps. And we can do or leave it on automatic. I've left it on automatic. And so we've got a lot of customizations. I can't possibly go over every customization. In fact, I'm just learning it myself. So that's all also active jobs, right? So active jobs, we've got a lot of different options. And of course, drivers, we have a list of drivers, and finished jobs, right? Maybe we only want to show certain specific jobs, right? Finished job is calendar, but maybe I don't like the calendar because it doesn't really show. Maybe I want to show a table, or maybe I want to see the finished jobs like this. It's a little bit easier, or maybe a table design, kind of a nice, that looks good. I like that better. Or we can do a gallery style. So many different options. We'll keep it a table so we can quickly and easily. So these are our main, right? So our three main are drivers, finished jobs, and active jobs. So finished jobs, of course, it's going to have a filter, right? We only want to know those specific jobs that are filtered. So that's going to be a display, right? We can add an icon to that. And we can also add some behavior to that, right? So finished jobs, right? Link info to finished jobs. So I only want that. So lots of different customizations here, lots of different ways that you can get in here. So that's really, really cool. So there's a lot of customizations. So this is based on view. We also have additional views. So if we take a look inside here, we've got job detail here. So maybe we want to click on the job detail. We want to know more information about the details of each job. So we have job detail. So lots of different ways that we can display it. Okay, so as you noticed in my original app, it had a different color, it had different information. So we can click on brand. Maybe we want to add a logo, just like I did in my original. So you can browse for your own logo, just as I did, right? If I click down here and let's scroll down here, that's what I want to click. We can browse for additional ones. So if we add a custom, we can even add a custom. So how do we do that? Well, we can even add custom colors. So, well, I don't want none, I want custom here. So we can enter an image. So just browse for an image here. Maybe it's on our Dropbox, so we can do that. So browsing for an image, and that's just what I did. So I browsed for my own image. So once you find one you like, I got one called logo, right? It's going to automatically add that. So we have Fredder's Delivery logo here. Maybe we want to change the color, the look, so we can do that on the header and footer. If we want a specific color, we can set a different color, just as I did here. Primary color, we can set to that. We can set it to dark or light theme if we want to do that as well. Okay, any changes, make sure you save it work and it'll automatically update. Refreshing it, it's going to refresh it. And then we see we've got a different update the details, and we've also got, maybe we want to select this color here. So that's basically what I got. Now we've got details, and we've got a background. We can set a background image, custom logo. This is the one I wanted to set. So let's say we want to set this logo. This is the one. Or we can just copy and paste this link right in here, and then paste it into our both. So maybe we want a launch image, the image that we're launching, we can paste that in here, saving that, and it's automatically going to update. So now when we launch the application, we're going to be able to see that quick logo there. Now we've got a logo. Now we've got it fully customized. So there's a lot of things you can do in this. Okay. Now, so that's the sample. That's basically it. So let's go in, and we can also control behavior. And what we're going to get into that is what I want to do is I really want to, right, when I make a change to a job, what I want to do is I want that information to come to Excel, right? That's very, very important. Now, we have already demonstrated how would we make changes in our application, how they come to the database, right? I'm going to show you the code. I haven't showed you the code, but we do understand that when we make a change here, it comes into the application. And of course, I'll show you the code, how do we do that? But we know already that's going to come inside our database. It's going to come, when I make a change here, it's going to automatically come to this particular application right here, this jobs, right? This is going to come here. So we understand that, the concept behind it, but I haven't gone over the code yet. But what I really want to do also is anytime we make a change inside the app, it has to come back to Excel. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do that with some automation, and we can do that inside here, automation. What we want to do is we want to create a bot. And basically, whenever there's a change in a job, I want that information to come back into Excel. Dropbox, then Excel. So we can do that with a new bot. So we click on here and call new bot, and we'll call it something like job change. So anytime we make a change in a job, when a record is updated, send an SMS. What we want to do is I'll create a custom bot. So let's do that, create a custom bot. And what I want to do is I want to configure an event. I want to create a brand new event, and we're going to configure that event, and we'll just call it, again, a job. Let's see, we've got some shit. A job is created or updated. Okay, that's fine for now. A job is created or updated, but we have different. So now we can click on here, and we see what do we want? All changes, adds or updates, and that's fine, or updates and deletes. So we can create that bot automatically, this event, on whatever type of change, or we can schedule it based on a specific interval, monthly, weekly, daily. But really I want it to happen on a change of a job, right? And so what is the table? The data changes to which table should trigger this event? Well, that's going to, of course, be job table, right? And so what I want to do now is on a specific condition. We don't necessarily need a condition. So really I want to focus on any job changes I want that made by the driver to come into Excel. And so do we need to bypass security features? Sure, we can bypass that. Take a look at the appearance. We can give it an icon if we want to, and document. That's not so important right now. We can just give it any kind of an icon. So now we have that. So when this is the event, the triggers when a change is made to a job. That's when we want something to happen. But what is it that we want to happen? Well, generally our drivers are not going to be creating a job, so we'll just put it adds and updates, right? So, or just updates only if we want. Anytime we make an update is fine, because generally our drivers aren't going to be creating jobs. That's going to be done inside an Excel, and our drivers are simply going to be setting a delivery time, checking the notes, changing the status, or maybe with the signature. Okay. So that's it. So what do we want to happen? What is it that I want to happen when a job is changed? Well, that's under add a step. What I want to do then is I want to create a step name. Is something I want to do. So we can insert a step name. So we can call it, let's say, create update Dropbox. We'll just put update Dropbox or something like that. So let's do create webhook, because that's what we're actually going to be doing. So we'll create a webhook. Okay, so that's what we want to have, but it's not here, right? So we don't have any suggestions here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom step. And now what we're going to do is on this particular step here, we see that we want to create a specific task, right? So let's create a task on that. I want to create a task. So what is that? So let's create a new task. That was just from a test. Now, what do we want to happen? Well, what I really want to happen is I want to send whatever information was changed. I want to send it to Dropbox. That's really essentially what I want to do. What I really want to do is create a new file. But however, the free version doesn't allow us to do this. I did try this. So I want to create basically like an Excel file, XLS file, and I want to create that inside the template. That's one way to do it. But I noticed here when we're having the free version doesn't allow that. I did check. By default, files are saved in the cloud system associated with the app's owner account. So we can add a specific account, but we don't have any options for the storage, right? That's what I really want. And so that has to do with the free version, but I found another way around it, and even probably a better way, because this will send all the information, but I really want to send specific information. We can do that with a web hook. So what we want to do is create a web hook. Now, a web hook is something that we can use on an application called Integromat, or it's now called Make, which is crazy, but so it's a company that's been created. So we're going to show you how to create a webhook and how to send that information all the way over. Okay, but in this case, what we want to do is we want to send a JSON type file, and I want to create a webhook. So how do we create a webhook? Well, we can use another called Integromat. So that's called Integromat. Now I've created one now it used to be called Integromat, and now it's called Make, right? So you see the URL is still Integromat, but it's a company called Make. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new webhook, and we're going to send that information to Dropbox. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing what you want to do, if you don't have it, see, you notice it's called Make, formerly called Integromat. So what we want to do is we want to create a new scenario. Once you sign up for this free account called New Scenario. So we create a brand new scenario. And what we want to do is click on the plus here, and we're going to be looking for something called webhook. So webhook. Once you find what you're looking for, you'll scroll down here. We're looking for webhook. And we want to create a custom webhook. Here's the custom webhook that we want to create. And now what it's going to do, we'll give it a name. We're going to click add, and we'll just give it any type of name. It is fine. That doesn't matter. And then we don't have any IP restrictions, and we're going to save that. And what that's going to do is give us this custom webhook. So we're going to copy that here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back inside our app, and you see with this place, let's see right here, this is where we were, okay? And we're going to take this URL and we're going to paste it directly inside the URL, okay? And then we're going to set this to post. We're going to set this to JSON. Okay, we can keep the body empty, the headers empty, that's fine. We don't need a template here. If we want to, we can create a template, but it's not necessary for our purposes. Okay, so that's all we have to do, and save it. Now keep that in mind that these bots will not run unless we've deployed our app. So if we take a look inside info, we see since the app is not deployed, bots will not deliver email or to the app owner, right? So we need to make sure that we're going to deploy it, right? But let's just take a quick look in here, and we'll take a look inside the automation, okay? And we've created a job change, right? A job record is created or updated. Updates only, okay? We're going to affect the job, right? What kind of process are we going to? We're going to create a webhook, right? That's the process that we want to run. We're going to create a webhook, and we're going to base it on this work against the jobs, and we're going to create a custom webhook URL here, and we're going to post that URL. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to make sure that we're going to do integrate. Now, once we do that, what I want to do is I want to send that information to Dropbox. So once we do that, so to deploy your app, right, if we click in the info, we want to make sure that we deploy our app. So it says here, remember, the app is not deployed. So how do we do that? Well, we can click manage. And then what we're going to do is we run a deployment check, and we can run this. We're going to deploy the app, okay? So once we say we pass, we give it a warning, make sure there's no errors, account status, right? So we'll take a look at the account status. Invalid test app, user login not allowed. You can test, distribute, and start your app, okay? Right now, once the app is in the past testing phase, please upgrade. So we're only allowed one single app to be deployed. I believe it based on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out. This is our test, and we're going to take a look at I'm going to go back into here. Okay, and we're going to go into, so I've got our deployed apps, right, which is the one that I was using before, and the one that we were just working on, which is the test app. Okay, so if you want to delete it, we can just delete it. So now what we're going to go to the one that I've deployed, because that's the one that's functioning and working, and we're going to work from that. So we can close everything else out, and I've made just a few changes on this particular one here. So of course I've got updated data with updated pictures. I've got active jobs here, and I've got finished jobs here. I'm going to take a look back in the automation where we are. Again, I've created an automation here called when the job is updated. So again, let's take a look back in here. Ads or updates I've got on that. I've created a webhook, right? If we take a look, we've got a brand new webhook. And if we take a look inside my scenarios, we're going to leave that one. And I've created a brand new scenario, and we're going to take a look at it right here. So this is the scenario I've created. I've taken this webhook here, this webhook, and I've pasted it directly inside here. So this is the same. Notice it ends in BVG. And we take a look at this one, we see it ends in here, BVG as well. Okay, so we know. So once we've done that, every time we make an update, let's go ahead and cancel this. Now what I want to do is create another scenario, right? Another application called Dropbox. So how do we do that? All you do is you just click on here, and then you search, well, not here, actually. All you do is click on here, the next one, right? And we select Dropbox, right, if you don't have it. And what we're going to do is we're going to create or overwrite a text file. Create or overwrite a text file. When you see here, create or overwrite, this is what we've created. So we've created a Dropbox, and you'll connect your Dropbox account by adding it here. We're going to select to overwrite, and we want to map a file path, And then what I want to do is I want to set a specific path. Where is that file path? Now, if we take a look inside our Dropbox, I know there's a lot here. Remember, we have driver images. We have job images here. Not this one, sorry. Here, this is the one, this is our test app. I'm going to delete that so we don't get confused, okay? Delete that. That's the one we just created with the test app, and we don't need that. This is the one we're focused on here. So we have driver images. I have job images, right? We know the driver images came from here, right? We know the job images that was created. Those are our signature files. And now I've created a brand new folder called application data, app data. So this is the one I want to map to. So when I look at this map here, I'm going to start out. I want to exclude the Dropbox. I don't want that because that's known. I want to include all of this here. This is the file, app data. That's what I want to copy over. That is exactly what I want to bring into this path here. But the difference is, notice that these are forward slashes now. Okay, /app, making sure, because everything else is assumed. It's assumed app sheet data copy file. This is my location, and I've given it a specific name. So this is that folder that I created, app data, another backslash. Then what I did is I added some text, job underscore, and the job ID. So now when we send, how do we know that this information happens? So let's take a look at that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click run once. Okay, just so we can see the data coming in. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into UX or anything else, and I'm going to go into a specific job. Let's go into active jobs, and I'm going to click on here to make sure that now this is already deployed, right? See the word deployed here. I deployed it already. That's important. So we're going to click and we're going to edit a specific job. This is job number 29. It is pending. I'm going to change that to scheduled. And I'm going to add some test notes here. I'll just add, let's select the driver here, right? Any driver, that's already fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some test notes. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it. This is two-step process. Once it is saved, I must also refresh. I need to update this, right? Notice it's still waiting. It's waiting, right? So I'm going to, as soon as I click here, and then we're going to wait in here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to see the data come through. Okay, our data came through. Let's take a look at what came through, right? Update mode, update, right? It's based on the update. Field delivery, that's the application name. What is the data that came through? Job ID 29, right? Customer, we have the pickup address. So all this information came through, right? So what I want to do is I want to send this information to Dropbox. So remember our test notes came right here. We have our status here. Our status went to schedule. So I want to bring that information in Excel. I don't want to bring it all because the job ID is not going to change. The driver won't have the ability to change the customer if you don't want, or the pickup address. So we're just going to send some limited. I don't want all this information. I only want some of it. And I want it to come directly into Dropbox. And I want it to come directly inside this folder here. Right? So when I refresh the data, we see that we have a brand new text file. That just got created because of our update. So what do I want to happen? Again, so back into this. We know what folder is going to come into. We've given it a specific name. Job ID is what we want to have. So what is that name? Job underscore and the job ID. Now let's take a look at the file. Job underscore and 29, because 29 is the one that we just updated, right? If we look at that again, remember that was job ID 29. That's what I want. So I want to know that. That's very important. And that came directly inside here. But I don't want all of the information, really. I want to know the status. I want to know the delivery date and time. I want to know the signature name. And I want to know the note. So I really want just four specific information. So to get that, I want to put in, I'm going to drag this over. Like, let's say we want to know the pickup date and time, right? Or the delivery address or the delivery date and time. All I need to do is just drag it over here, and that's going to put it in. And I have all, but I need to separate them, right? I want to make sure that they have separations between them, because I need to separate between the status, the delivery date and time, the signature name, and the notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use \C or / I should say, / and what that's going to do is going to be a separator or a delimiter so that we can separate the data. And that's what we want. I want to have that come directly inside our Dropbox folder. So as soon as we run that, it turns on. So once you've got that and everything's looking good, you need to turn this on. And once you turn it on, every change in the app will automatically come to Dropbox. When it does come to Dropbox, it comes in a file that looks like this. If I double click on here and open up my default editor here, we can see that we have some information. We didn't add it. There's no delivery date and time. There's no information. We only have a little bit of information, which is fine. All we have is the scheduled and the test notes. Why do we have any? This is blank and this is blank because we don't have any delivery address and we don't have any signature. So everything else is blank. Once we add it, it'll change. So what I want to do is I want this information and this information to come into job 29, right? So that's where VBA is going to look inside that folder. We're going to go to job 29 here, right? And what I want to do is I want to update these test notes and I want to update the status, right? So when I click on a macro and run that macro called sync mobile data, I want to take that information and bring it in. So I guess it could update the existing job. So when I click on a different job and I click on that same job again, we now see the status is scheduled. We now see the test notes. And we also see that there is no file in the folder. So it's taken the information, it's brought it into Excel, and it's deleted it. Okay, great. So we understand that. So now we know that any updates, once it's loaded, any updates is going to come directly through a webhook. Right? If we take a look inside the automation, we see that webhook sending information through here. It's sending it, and it's sending all the information, but we're only extracting a little bit of information. We only want the status. We only want the delivery date and time, the signature name, and the data notes. So let's go ahead and update that. Let's add that information and see exactly what that's going to look like. Okay. We can click on here's the information. So now let's say we want a delivery date and time. So, I wanted to show you one more thing, right? Remember this was delivery date and time. Let me show you that. Remember it was only delivery date. It didn't have a time on it. So how did I get that? So let's go into the data. Let's go into jobs. And now we see inside the columns, jobs, right? Here's our columns, right? So now we have pickup date and time and delivery date and time. So when I edited this. All I did was change this from date. I changed it to date and time because I want both. That's all I did. So pick up date, and I changed it from date to date and time. So that's all I had. Once I did it, automatically added this information. It's very cool. It's a little bit off the screen here. Let me move that over here so you can see it. Okay, so now we have this really cool date and time. So now all we need to do is just change this to PM, and then setting any date, it's going to automatically set it. So now we have a delivery date and time. Now what I want to do is I want to click a signature. Now I can create any signature here. So now we have a signature, and now we have test notes that's put in delivered. And then also what I want to do is I want to change the status. Now it's been delivered, so I'm going to change the status. And now I want all of that information to come into Excel. So I'm going to save that. Okay, and then don't forget, right, we need to make sure updating our app. That's going to save in those changes, and now it's going to come directly into Excel. So now if we take a look inside this, you see that that just popped up. So now let's open this again one more time, and yes, we'll save those changes, right? So now let's take a look at what we have. Let's bring that in. It's a bit too big for the screen, and we'll bring it a little bit smaller. So let's take a look at the data and see what we got in here. So we've got delivered now. We've got the next column, we've got the delivery date and the delivery time. And I've got this really long URL here, right? Let's take a look. So this is for our picture, this really long URL here, starting here. This is for our image. So we're going to have to set that up. We're going to have to change that. And then also we have, of course, our notes delivered. Here's our test. Here's the separation right here. So here's test notes delivered. Okay, so the thing is we need to take this. We understand how there's 4 different information that we need to send into Excel. And we've got this really long file. But let's take a look at also, we just updated, what did we update? We just updated, of course, that job here, 29, right? So inside our folder, we also have some more information. So we know we have this, but let's take a look inside our job images. We also have something additional. Look at this. 29 signature name. This automatically came into Excel. So what I need to do is I need to grab this name here. This name, 29 signature name. I need to know that, and I need to put that inside our database here. I need to put that inside. Let's take a look inside our data. Go down to 29. Here's our job 29, right? Notice it hasn't been updated yet, which is correct. So here's our signature name. There's nothing here. But what I need to do is I need to put the folder. We kind of know the folder that it's going into. Then I need to put the rest of the name here. So what I want to do is from this link here, I need to extract it. Let's take a look a little bit more inside this link here. Let's go ahead and let's take a look. Let's see if I can highlight it here. Oops, didn't want to click it. But if you click it, it's going to show up, which is good. So what I want to do is I want to show you this area. You see this one here says job images here. Percentage 2F. What is that? Well, that is, or the backslash, dot signatures. Then we have what's percentage 20. Well, this in HTML, that's going to be a space, right? So we need to change that with a space. Name dot 000155.png. That is what I want to extract. I don't need the rest of it. I only need that one. Why is that important? Because that is the same name, 29 dot signature name space name 000155.png. So that's what I need. If I put this name along with the correct folder, which is job images, if I put that together, I can then create a full file path because it's already in our Dropbox, which is really cool. So this is easy. We've got the delivery name. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how we parse this data and bring it directly into Excel. Now you saw when I clicked this macro here, right here, when I click this macro inside jobs, we see everything happen. So what is our macro that's connected to this button? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into assign macro and we're going to edit that. And that's going to bring us to the application macros. If you look above, we did the folders. Now we're ready to update the information from our app data. So how are we going to do that? All right. So what we want to do is we need some information dimension of file path, the data folder. I need to know that. We don't need this, is not too important. I don't need that, that's from another training. And the file name as a string. So we need all that. I want to know what row job row is very important, right? How are we going to know what row to put that on? It's got to go into a specific row. How do we know that job number 29 is, job number, let's say 29 is on row 32? How do we know that? Well, we need to make sure that it comes in, okay? So we need to know it's on row 32. So we need to know the job row, and I want to know how many jobs were updated. Also we're going to use an array. So we need the job data as an array because there's multiple information coming in. I need to know the job data as a string, the job ID, and the picture name. First, we're going to set that data folder. That's very, very important, right? I need to know where it's always located. It's located here inside our mobile data folder. I want to make sure that that path is accurate. So we're going to so that data folder is going to be the admin mobile data folder. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add the application data. That application data is coming in, right? I want to map that folder. I know that that data is located right here inside. I want to look for any text files inside this app data folder. So we're going to add that onto it. Okay, what I want to do is I want to make sure that it is an accurate path. So directory, the data folder, or the data folder is empty, then please select a correct Dropbox mobile app data in the admin screen. So we need to make sure we have a correct one. Now we're going to focus on the jobs database file. So what I want to do is I want to loop through all of the txt text files inside that folder. For each text file, I want to update the associated data inside the database or table. So we can set a file name. It's going to be based on the directory, the data folder, and txt. So that's going to set our file name. And we're going to run a do while loop. Doing while for every text file inside the folder, as long as the file name is greater than 0, we can continue. So we're going to set that data file, the entire path of that data file is going to be based on the data folder and the file name. That's the path. What I want to do is I want to extract that job ID. Remember, every single one starts with job underscore. Why is that important? Because we did that inside our Dropbox. Remember, we set every txt file here, starting here with the word job. You see the job underscore, and then what we have is that information here. So then mess that up. Cancel that. Let's go back in here. Cancel is fine. And then so we have here, you see it starts out with job underscore here. So, and then we have the job ID. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we remove that. If I remove this, it's going to leave me exactly with the job ID. So we're going to use the replace command. And I also want to replace the .txt. So if I remove the job underscore and I remove the txt, it's going to leave us with exactly that job ID. So that's just what I did here using dual replace statements. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to extract that job row. I want to get the job row, right? I know what the ID is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the find command, and I'm going to use a named range. So inside our jobs database, we have a named range. If we go into formulas and the name manager, we take a look inside the job ID. We have a name range It's called job ID. So that's going to consist of a dynamic named range based on all of our IDs. So I'm going to search this named range inside VBA, and I'm going to extract the row from it. So that's exactly what we're going to do inside VBA. So in case it's not found, it could result in an error. So we're going to add on error resume next and on error go to 0. So we're going to extract that job row, simply going to be the jobs database based on that named range job ID. What am I going to look for? I'm looking for the job ID. I'm looking in the values and whole, and I want to extract the row out of it. This is going to get us the job row. Now, if we don't have a row, we need to get out of there. So if the job row equals 0, we're going to skip everything else and go down to here to no job. Okay, but assuming that we do have a correct job row, we can move on. The first thing what I want to do is I want to open that text file. So we're going to open that text file, and what I'm going to do is input as number 1. And I want to put all that text into a single string called job data. So then once we have all that information inside that string, we can then close that text file. It happens very, very, very fast. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to split that data, right? I want to split it into 4 different sections. Now remember, we used the delimiter of this /c/. So once we have that, then we can put that into an array. Once I have that array, I can then work with every individual component or data value inside that array. And so that's what I want to do. So what is the first one? If we remember inside the Dropbox here, let's take a look at the mapping once again. So the first one is our data status. Where do I want to put that? Now I know the row, and where do I know that status is going to go directly inside column D. So we can update column D. If we know the row, we know the column, we can then update it. So column D in the job row, job data array 0. Now remember, 0 is always when it comes to arrays, 0 is the first value, 1 is the second, right? So we're going to update the status using that. I also want to update the delivery date and time, and that's going to be the second one, right? The second one here, delivery date and time. The third one is the signature name, and the fourth one is the notes. Okay, the signature one's a little bit more difficult because we have to parse that big link. So we're going to go with that now. So the second one is very easy, delivery date and time. Now what I want to do is I want to get that. Remember, we've got that really, really big link here. I want to take that link here and I want to separate it out. Basically what I want to do is I want to look for something like the file name equals because I want everything after that, So I'm going to look for file name, and I'm going to get rid of everything before that. Then what I want to do is I want to look for something like and app version, and I want to remove everything after that, right? What that's going to do is going to leave us with only that name. And then all I need to do is simply replace %2f with the slash, and I want to replace %20 with a space. So we just need to do that. So we can do that in 3 different steps. The first step, or 4, the first step is simply extracting that entire link based on the third value. Remember, the third value inside that, or the third column, is array 2. This is the first, this is the second, and this is the third. So we're going to get that full signature and put that inside a string variable, that full string, okay, that full link. Now what we're going to do, assuming it's not empty, right? If it's empty, there's nothing we can do. If it's not empty, what I want to do is I want to remove everything from the left, right? So I want to extract, so we're going to remove the right portion of the string. Sorry, I want to remove everything from the app version, everything after that, right? So let's take a look inside that string again here. And what I want to do is I want to look for something, and app version. I want to remove everything on that, including that, everything to the right. So that's going to leave us with everything on the left. So we can use the left command to do that. We want to keep everything to the left, basically, of this. That's all I want to do with that. Keep everything to the left of this. So we're going to look for this and app version based using the in-string command in the file. And so what that's going to do is remove everything from the right, keeping everything on the left. Okay, that's good. That'll remove everything to the right. But now what I also want to do is I also want to remove everything to the left, right? Everything to the left of this. So if I look inside and I see something called and file name, I want to remove everything to the left because I want to keep job images. I want to keep job images there. But I want to remove everything to the left of and file name equals. So that's exactly what we're going to do in our next statement here. So this time we're going to use the right command, and I want to remove everything to the left of what? File name equals. I want to remove everything. And of course, I want to exclude this. So I also want to subtract 8 characters, right? Because I don't want to include file name. What that's going to do is going to leave everything except for that file path. Then all I need to do is replace our %2f with a slash, and then I also want to replace %20. I want to replace it with a space. So we're going to use double replace to replace those with the actual values of our path. That's going to replace the HTML strings with a space and the backslash. Okay, that's going to leave us with our actual file name. Once we have that file name, it's going to take that, it's going to put it in column I in the picture name. So it's going to put it in column I. That's exactly where we want to have it, inside that. So it's going to take everything out, it's going to extract it, it's going to look something like this. It's going to leave us with job images, our file name, and PNG, and it's going to put it directly in column I. And then what we want to do, once we have that, I want to do the last thing, the notes. Of course, that's going to be the 4th item, and that's going to be job data 3, which is our 4th item, and that's going to put our notes in column J. Then we're simply going to clear out that file name. We're done working with it. We're going to clear it out. And I also want to delete it, right? We no longer need that text file. We can delete it. All right, great. So once we have deleted, we're going to say message box count jobs have been updated. I want to know how many. So each time we're going to run a loop, we're going to increase the job account, and we're going to let the user know how many, through a message box, how many jobs were updated. And that's it. So when I run that macro, all I need to do, again, let's take a look inside this, right? We know that inside our folder here, we see that it is job 29. So we're going to take all this information, we're going to extract that, and we're going to put that's for job 29. So if we take a look inside our database before we make that update, and we look to job 29, which is on row 32 here, we see that we don't have that information here, right? There's no path. The notes here, the status is currently scheduled, right? So I'm going to update that with just one click, and it's going to do everything. So we'll go back into our job screen here. We're going to run this macro, and it's going to do all the work for us. One job has been updated. We're going to quickly go back into, we're going to first look in our folder. That text file is gone, which is what we want. It's been deleted. We're going to take a look back inside our jobs database. We're going to look here on row 32 here through job 29. We see it's been delivered. We see that we now have images, right? We now have the image name, it's been tracked. We have brand new notes that say it's been delivered. When I go back into the jobs and I click on 29 one more time, it's going to load everything up, including the signature that we just created. It's now been delivered. We have our test notes have been updated, and it's been done. All right, very cool. Well, we got that part, but I haven't yet showed you exactly how we can save it. When I save this, right, I want to make sure that any changes we have go to the app, right? So we see how that the information is brought in, but how do we send that to the app? We know, of course, that that data file has to be updated. If we look back in the test file, let's open that up. So let's go ahead and browse for that. This is the one we want to focus on here, our drivers here. So if we take a look inside this one and we see that it appear here. So here's our data. Okay, so I want to make sure that we're updating our jobs, right? So we want to make sure any change on this must be updated. So how are we going to do that? Well, that's going to come from, of course, our macro save and update. So I want to make sure that we actually know the path of that. That path of that workbook is super important. If we take a look inside here, that path is going to have to be browsed. Our mobile data app, driver XLS, that's the one I want to map to. Very important, this path, so that we can update. That's the workbook we want to update. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our VBA here, and we're going to check inside our save and update. So it's going to be on the job macros, save and update, right? Now, saving and update, we're going to make sure that we have the required fields. We're going to check for delivery date, make sure that's correct. It's not less than the pickup date. We want to get that mobile data file. I want to make sure that's called data file. That's the name I've given it to. That we can also use that. If we take a look in here, we see it's data file. So I want to pull that data file. I want to make sure it's accurate. If it's not, then let the user know. Okay. If it is correct, if the data workbook path does not equal empty, and we want to make sure it's a correct file path, that does not equal it. Does not equal empty. Let's put that does not equal empty. Then I want to set the data workbook, which is going to set the workbook here, where this is based on the data workbook as a workbook. That's already been set up as a workbook. Then what I want to do is I want to open that workbook and set the path at the same time. So workbooks.open, data workbook path. Here we're setting the workbook. And now what I want to do is, first of all, I want to do if is it a new job or not, right? If it is a new job, we need to create not a brand new row at the bottom here, right? And we also need to create a brand new row. So we have two different databases. I want to update this Excel, and I also want to update our existing right here, which is our existing database. So I want to know if we're updating. I want to make sure that we have both of them, right? So when we add job number 43, it gets added here and it gets added here. So they're different rows, which is fine, but we still want to make sure they're added. So we're going to do that too. So I need to know, is it a brand new job? How do we know if it's new? Well, we know if it's new based on what is located inside B3. If we take a look inside B4, we know that there's no job row. Remember, new jobs have no row associated with them. Existing jobs do. So B4 is going to let us know. And B3 would be 2 because there's no ID there. So what we're going to do is we're going to check B4. If B4 is empty, we know it's a new job. Our job row, I got two different rows, our job row, and we have our data workbook row. So data workbook rows for our data workbook, job rows for our mean workbook. We're going to get that, put that our new database row, the first available based on the jobs database. And then we're going to set the next job ID in B3, and that's going to come from B5. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to set that job ID. So basically all we're doing is a few things here. All we're doing is simply taking our next job ID using the max form, and we're going to place that directly in B3. I'm also going to take this next one and I'm going to place it directly inside here, our next available row, which would be A46. Okay, so that is all we need to do for the existing workbook. But what about the data workbook? The data workbook, a little bit different. First of all, I want to make sure that we have the correct, it's not nothing. I want to make sure we do have a correct set workbook. Then what we're going to do is we're going to data workbook row. I want to know the first available row in our data workbook. So we can use the same XNLUp based on column, making sure that we're based on the job sheet, that job sheet, and that's the first available row. Then we've already got our new ID, which is located in B3. I'm going to take that, I'm going to place that directly inside column A. So that just means inside we're going to place it directly in here. Inside the next one would be 44. I'm going to place it right there inside our data workbook as well. Okay, what if it's an existing job? Okay, if it's an existing job, I need to get both. I need to get the job row, which is our existing workbook, and I need to get the data workbook row, which is our data workbook. So we need both. Our job row, if it's our existing workbook, which is there, our job row is simply going to be located right here inside B4. However, what if it is our new workbook or our data workbook? I need to extract that. I need to use the find and get that row there. So we're going to wrap the on air resume next data workbook row for our data workbook. Again, sheets job, our data workbook, A2 through A99. I'm going to use find. And what am I finding? I'm going to find whatever's in B3. That's our job ID. And I'm going to look at Excel values. And this is going to extract the row. So it's going to find that row, right? So we need to make the update, right? If I'm making an update to job 30, I need to know that we're making the update to row 31. All right, so we're going to do that there. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be simply running this data mapping just like we did. Now we've got both the rows here for our data workbook, and we have our row for our existing workbook. So now we're going to run a map for job column equals 2 to 10. Why 2 to 10? Well, because that's exactly what we have inside here. So if we take a look inside our database, we've already got our first column, which is column 1, 2, and then our last column right here, all the way to 10. This is our 10th column inside column J. So I want to update all of that both with our existing workbook and of course our data workbook, doing the same exact thing to both. So we're going to run a loop. So first of all, our jobs database is going to update that. And now what we're going to be doing, I want to make sure that we have this for our data workbook. And also I want to make sure that we have a correct row and we have a correct data workbook. If we're going to do the same exact thing, but this time we're going to update the data workbook's job, data workbook row, and the job column, right? Same column, but different row, This is for our data workbook row. We're going to add or update mapping based on our data workbook because they're all the same columns, right? They're exactly the same columns in the same order. Then also when we're done with that, I want to close our data workbook and make sure that we're saving it using true. That's it. We're going to reload the jobs list. That's simply going to reload it. And that's all we have to do to simply make changes to our data map. So that means when we save a job inside our data, automatically those changes are going to be saved. Let's take a look and see how that works. So inside jobs here, we have job number 3, Nancy Smith, right? And we'll go ahead and close this. We don't need that open right now. So we'll close it. We don't need to save the changes. So that's going to be job number 3. So I'm going to say these are the updated notes for job 3. Okay, so now that we have that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that job. It's going to open both of those very, very quickly, open that data file. So if we look here in our jobs database and we go to jobs 3, of course, we see here in row 6, we see that we have our updated notes. Here's our updated notes. These are the job notes for job 3. Okay, and we take a look inside our data, and we take a look inside our data file, and we see here, of course, job 3 is on row 4 here, and we take a look inside here. We see that these are the updated notes for job 3. And all we need to do is it's automatically updated in our app as I've already shown you. Okay, very, very cool. So that's how we get both workbooks updated. We know that automatically inside our app, as soon as we enter job 3, right, we know that that's going to be, I don't know where job 3 is here, but we know that the notes are automatically updated. As soon as we sync, we know that those notes are going to be updated inside our app as well. Very, very cool. Let's briefly go over some of the other features on this. So I've already shown you exactly how we can update our local data and we can update our mobile data very easily using Dropbox and Excel, and of course how to bring that information including pictures. Okay, I've got a little bit of a dashboard here, a schedule. We're not going to go over this today because I've gone over this schedule. There's nothing much different in this schedule than we haven't already gone over. It's very, very cool. Go ahead and go in the macros. We've been like, if you want to know how to build this schedule and we want to go into detail, is nothing different than our maintenance manager. We built the exact same scheduler inside our maintenance manager, so very easily. And our dashboard is simply just a few pivot tables. So I've created some pivot tables. We've got some inside our jobs database. Of course, I've got a table here. It's going to be based on our job data. I've created some pivot tables here to help us with that, and they're located here in the pivot tables. So I've created these pivot tables here. If we take a look inside here, we see we have a status by job. So I've got a status by job, and I've created a brand new pivot table here called status by job. So what I want to know is all the statuses. I want to count the job IDs based on the number, right? And we can also actually sort that. And we can sort that by number. If I click on here, I can sort that by number from highest to lowest, largest to smallest. So that's kind of nice. So it is these that we're going to see inside the dashboard, right? So notice that we just changed it, totals by job. So I've created this chart based on that. Very, very simple based on chart. I've also got a completed and closed. This is another one, right? You can go into detail on this. So we've created a pivot table based on this one here. This is the one I just wanted to show you right here. Delivered and closed. This is, again, another simple pivot table based on the count, right? Where we want to know the delivery date and times. I want to know the status, right? But what type of status? Well, I only want to know those for delivered and closed, right? Only those delivered and only those closed. And then I'm going to just create a little bit of a donut chart, and I'm going to have that directly inside here. just a little bit, and a few pictures and backgrounds. And of course, we've got a little bit of timeline here to do that. This, of course, training is not pivotable on this dashboard. This dashboard is just complement. Of course, you can probably do a lot with this. And of course, total deliveries by driver. All right, good. I really wanted to focus this one mainly on the mobile integration so that you can create your own mobile apps, syncing them with Excel both ways. And I think we've accomplished that today, right? Again, you can get a lot more into this. I'll make sure to include this download for free, of course, using the links. Of course, if you want to pick up 200 of my best templates and support us, a great way to do that is with the 200 workbooks. I put them all in a single zip file and made them available for just $77 for a limited time. Also, I've got now the PDF codebook. So that means every single line of code in a beautifully organized PDF color-coded document, that's available for just $20 additional. So for $97, you can get both all 200 templates and the PDFs associated with that, including a complete library. That's a great way to support us. Don't forget to subscribe, click that like bell, comment below, and of course, we will always respond to every single one of your comments. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.